Good afternoon. My name is Dana Clary, and I am here having a conversation with a candidate for Circuit Judge, Marc Dwyer. So Marc, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dana.
Marc, what is a circuit judge? What are the qualifications, and what makes you uniquely qualified for this position?
Well, a circuit judge, that term comes from the Old West. You know, in the Old West, they used to have a judge, and he would have to travel around from town to town, county to county, and around a circuit. So a circuit judge, in essence, was really designed to do that. And when Florida was smaller, that's exactly what they would do. They would go around from county to county. So a circuit is made up of several different counties. And a circuit judge hears the more serious legal matters, and they used to hear them from multiple counties. Now that we've grown, most circuit judges just hear cases within their one county. Now, the qualifications of being a circuit judge are laid out by the legislature. You have to have practiced law for 5 years and be a member of good standing in your bar. You also have to live in the circuit for which you are seeking office. That and just paying a qualifying fee or qualifying by the petition method are what qualifies you to run for a judicial position. Now, what makes me uniquely qualified are several things, the biggest of which is temperament and character. You know, at the end of the day, a career or a lifetime of doing the same thing or practicing with the same type of law doesn't make you more qualified to be a judge, because a judge is not practicing law. A judge is sitting down, he's listening to people, he's assimilating information, and then he is coming out to a fair decision. And it's based on wisdom, it's based on intelligence and intellect, and most of all, it's based on a foundation of character. At the end of the day, you have to know you're doing what's right for the people, and then you apply the law that you have learned in those years to make sure that everyone gets equitable and fair treatment. Those are the qualities and the qualifications, and I have those.
So you are certainly qualified for this position. So what is it that you think sets you apart from your opponents?
Well, I think that the one thing that distinguishes me from my opponents the most is that I'm not a career lawyer. I didn't start out of undergrad and just go to work for a firm. I actually started working for corporate America in management. I was hired out of college by Toys R Us as an assistant manager for their stores. They put me in the second busiest store in New York City, and our management team had done so well in managing that store that they split up each of us and put us all in weaker stores to help bring them up. Well, after I went out to the weaker store and helped bring that up, then they put me in the busiest store in New York City. And I started seeing a pattern developing. I felt more like a garbage man than a manager. So I ended up taking an offer with CVS pharmacy chain. And similarly, as a manager, they put me in a store, and when we did well, they moved me to a busier store, and finally to their busiest store in New York City. It was after that that we decided to move to Florida when we had my first child, and that's when I went into law practice. So being down here, I ended up being hired by AT&T Solutions and MCI, which are two of the biggest communications companies. So I've had management experience with big corporate companies, and what we did with those companies were help solve problems for the second biggest railroad in the country. So we got in, we had to identify problems, and then we came up with solutions. That management experience and that experience solving problems clearly distinguishes me from the career lawyers that I'm running against.
I think the community should support Marc because you know, my experience with him is he has a great business and legal mind, and I think it's very refined, and that's certainly a good attribute as a judge. But I also think he has a very good common sense approach, and the combination of the two really provides for an effective result. Well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make my mark and vote for Marc Dwyer.
So what had you become an attorney?
Well, it's an interesting story. Right before I moved to Florida, I had actually started my own firm. I had my own marketing firm. And what we marketed were telecommunications services, which were beginning to be integrated with the cell phones when they auctioned off the wider bands. And so looking ahead at the forecast, I recognized I would not be able to be successful in that business down here. It was at that point that my current partner, Mr. Steve Knight, encouraged me to go into the law. And he said, if I could do it, Mark, you could do it. You know, knowing our backgrounds and my history and my education, I didn't know that you could just go into law school. I thought you had to do pre-law or you had to be a political science major. But what I did was take the LSAT and use that as a sign. I ended up scoring on that LSAT in the top 16% in the country. So it was a pretty good indication to me that I would do well within the profession.
Mark, I know you